This faded wartime photo of a crashed Heinkel 111 bomber recently came into the Wing Leader photo archive. With nothing written on the back, the Wing Leader team set out to discover the identity of the Heinkel, a search that would lead us to an isolated cottage, a roadside memorial, and even a link to a royal scandal. The bomber is clearly lying in snow, ruling out a Battle of Britain crash. Perhaps it was one of the hundreds of aircraft lost in Russia. But Luftwaffe aircraft on the Russian front had a yellow band painted around the fuselage, which ruled that out. Or maybe it was shot down during the Blitz in the winter of 1940. But by then, most of the bombers had their markings covered in black paint, and very rarely did any pilot belly land his aircraft in total darkness. This had to be an early war casualty, possibly in France or Norway, but could it be in the UK? These two figures in the photo certainly appear to confirm this, as it looks like an RAF pilot on the left wearing an Irvin jacket and an RAF airman on the right carrying the very common gas mask holder over his shoulder. Luckily for the team, only a handful of Heinkels were shot down onto British soil during the winter of 1939 and 1940, and one particular aircraft immediately sprung to mind. One HFM of 4 kg-26 was shot down on the 3rd of February 1940 just west of Whitby on the North Yorkshire coast. These contemporary photos show the wreckage lying next to a farmhouse in snow. But was it the same aircraft? Most existing photos only show the starboard side of the aircraft, but this one, which appears to be an early photo montage, shows the port side of the Heinkel, and if you compare the tails of both aircraft, the bullet hole patterns match exactly. So this mystery photo was the Whitby Heinkel, the first German bomber to be brought down on English soil during World War II. But who shot it down? And did the crew survive? The Wing Leader team dug deeper into the records to find out. In February 1940, England was experiencing its coldest winter since 1881. The phony war was at its height. In other words, nothing much was happening. Then, at around 9 a.m. on the 3rd of February, enemy bombers were detected approaching the northeast coast of England. 3 Hurricanes of Blue Section 43 Squadron, flown by Flight Lieutenant Peter Townsend, Flying Officer Patrick Tiger Folkes, and Sergeant Jim Hallows, scrambled to try to find them in the low grey cloud. Peter Townsend takes up the story in his combat report.
0940 hours. One Heinkel seen 5 miles south of Whitby at 300 feet flying north-northwest. Carried out number 1 attacks 5 times. Enemy aircraft lowered undercarriage after 3rd attack. Lower and upper rear gunner firing.
The other 2 RAF pilots also carried out determined attacks on the unfortunate Heinkel, and with his crew dead or badly injured, the pilot, Herman Wilms, decided to head for land, knowing that they would be dead in minutes if they came down in the icy sea. As the Heinkel roared low over Whitby, the Hurricanes were still firing at it. As soon as he cleared the town, Wilms put the crippled aircraft down in a field, as witnessed by Peter Townsend.
Enemy aircraft landed, undercarriage collapsing, crashed through a hedge and stopped 50 yards from a farmhouse.
On the ground, hundreds of people had watched the battle. The Heinkel had ploughed through a line of trees and come to rest next to a small cottage. The glazed nose had been smashed to pieces by the trees, and the observer's body lay on the snow in front of the aircraft. Carl Missy, the wireless operator, stumbled out of the upper gun position and fell, unable to get up, as his legs had been shattered by bullets. The pilot tried to set fire to his plane with his flare pistol, but more men arrived to take them prisoner and to put the fire out. The badly injured flight engineer, Johann Meyer, lay in a pool of blood, trapped in the gondola under the plane. He died the next day. Peter Townsend went to the hospital the next day to visit Carl Missy. The German's right leg had been so badly smashed by bullets that his foot, had been amputated. Townsend shook his hand and gave him a tin of 50 Players cigarettes and a bag of oranges. The 2 dead crewmen were buried with full military honors. On their graves lay a wreath with a note from 43 Squadron, with sympathy. This was early 1940, before the full horrors of World War II had played out, and these were professional airmen who bore no malice towards each other. They were simply doing their job. As this was the first enemy aircraft to be brought down in England during World War II, the people of Whitby decided to erect a memorial to mark the event. Although the road has changed a lot since the war, the memorial is still there in the grass by the side of a roundabout, passed by thousands of motorists every day. Remarkably, the cottage is still there too, as is the gap in the trees caused by the crashing Heinkel. The surviving trees are thicker now, but still bear a strong resemblance to how they looked in 1940. So what happened to the German airmen? The Heinkel pilot, Hermann Wilms, spent the rest of the war in a POW camp. Karl Missy, the badly injured wireless operator, was returned to Germany on compassionate grounds in 1943. The 2 other crew members, Rudolf Lauschacker and Johann Meyer, now lie in the German War Grave Cemetery at Cannock Chase, alongside hundreds of their comrades who would meet the same fate during the Battle of Britain. And what of the Hurricane pilots who shot it down? Jim Hellows went on to become one of the RAF's top aces and left the RAF as a wing commander in 1956. He died in 1987. Peter Townsend also became an ace, and in 1944 he became equerry to King George VI until the King's death in 1953. During this time, he fell in love with the Queen's sister, Princess Margaret, but, being a divorcee, their relationship was blocked, causing a considerable scandal in the press at the time. Later he did marry, and passed away in 1995. 22-year-old Patrick Tiger Folkes was not so lucky. Just 2 months later, he was flying a routine convoy patrol off the north coast of Scotland with Peter Townsend when his aircraft was seen to crash into the sea. His body was never found.